When was the last time you felt truly powerful? Not aggressive or dominant, but genuinely strong in your own life. Maybe you can't remember. Maybe that's why you're here. There's this weight you carry, this sense that you're always one step behind, always reacting instead of creating. What if that feeling isn't random? What if everything you've been taught about being good, about staying humble, about not taking up too much space, what if it's the very thing keeping you trapped? You've been carrying something heavy, that feeling of being unseen, unheard, like you're living someone else's life. You wake up, go through the motions, but somewhere deep down, you know you're capable of more. You feel it in those quiet moments, that pull towards something greater, something real. But every time you reach for it, something holds you back. Here's what's actually happening. You've been taught to see your power as dangerous. From childhood, you learned that being strong meant being selfish, that wanting more meant being greedy, that standing firm meant being difficult. So you learned to dim yourself, to apologize for your ambitions, to call your dreams unrealistic. And now you're living in the shadow of who you could be, but you're starting to see through it. That's why you're here. You're beginning to understand that the discomfort you feel isn't because something's wrong with you. It's because something in you is trying to break free. Your real strength, your authentic power, it's been there all along, waiting for permission that was never going to come from anyone but you. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of most, because most people stay comfortable in their cages, convincing themselves the bars are there for protection. But you're starting to question everything. Think about the moments when you felt most alive. They weren't when you were playing it safe, were they? They were when you took a risk, when you spoke your truth, when you chose the harder path because it was yours. That feeling, that electric aliveness, that's what happens when you stop apologizing for your existence and start claiming it. But let's go deeper, because recognizing your cage is only the beginning. The real question is, why did you build it in the first place? You weren't born believing you were too much. You weren't born thinking your dreams were too big. Somewhere along the way, you learned that strength was dangerous. Maybe it was a parent who felt threatened by your independence. Maybe it was a teacher who needed you to fit into their system. Maybe it was a culture that profits from your insecurity. The result is the same. You learned to perform weakness, to make yourself smaller so others would feel bigger, to dim your light so others wouldn't feel overshadowed. And the most insidious part? You started calling this kindness. You started believing that shrinking yourself was the same as caring for others. But here's the truth. Your weakness doesn't serve anyone. It just creates more weakness. You're discovering something profound about the nature of strength. It's not what the world told you it was. It's not about force or aggression or stepping on others. Real strength is about something much deeper. The courage to become who you truly are in a world that profits from your conformity. There was a philosopher who saw this clearly, who spent his life unraveling the lies we tell ourselves about power and weakness. He watched how people surrendered their strength and then wondered why life felt empty. He saw how we create elaborate philosophies to justify our fears, how we turn our limitations into virtues, and he offered a different path. Friedrich Nietzsche understood that you were born with an incredible force inside you, not a force of destruction, but of creation. He called it the will to power, not power over others, but power over yourself. The power to shape your own values, to create your own meaning, to become the author of your own story. Most people never think about this part. They assume strength means dominance. But Nietzsche saw something revolutionary. True strength is the ability to face the chaos of existence and create something beautiful from it. To look at a world without inherent meaning and say, "Then I will create meaning." To feel the weight of freedom and carry it anyway. You're beginning to understand what Nietzsche meant when he said God is dead. He wasn't celebrating. He was issuing a warning and an invitation. The old systems that told you who to be, how to live, what to value, they're crumbling. And in their absence, you face the most terrifying and liberating truth. You must create yourself. This is where his philosophy becomes revolutionary. Nietzsche saw that most people, faced with this freedom, run back to their chains. They create new masters: social media, societal expectations, the opinions of strangers. They do anything to avoid the responsibility of becoming themselves. He called this slave morality, not because these people were enslaved by others, but because they enslaved themselves. But you're seeing another way. Master morality isn't about mastering others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about looking at your life and asking, what do I actually value? What do I actually want? Who am I when I strip away everyone else's expectations? These aren't easy questions. They're the hardest questions, but they're the only ones that matter. Coming up next, we go deeper. But it's not easy, because accepting your power means accepting responsibility for everything you've settled for until now. If this message is speaking to you, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, the overman, isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming fully human. It's about overcoming the greatest enemy you'll ever face, the version of yourself that chooses comfort over growth, fitting in over standing out, safety over aliveness. The Übermensch is simply someone who stopped waiting for permission to exist fully. Think about what this means for your life. Every excuse you've made, every time you've said, "I can't," every dream you've labeled unrealistic. What if these weren't facts but choices? What if your weakness wasn't inherent but learned? What if your strength has been there all along, buried under years of being told it was too much, too bold, too dangerous? But here's where Nietzsche gets really radical. He doesn't just want you to find your strength. He wants you to create new values entirely. Think about that. Not just follow different rules, but write your own. Not just choose a different path, but carve one where none existed. This is what he meant by becoming who you are. Not discovering some pre-existing self, but creating yourself through your choices, your actions, your will. Most people can't handle this level of freedom. It's easier to follow than to lead yourself. It's easier to blame circumstances than to acknowledge your power to change them. It's easier to resent the strong than to become strong. Nietzsche called this ressentiment, the poisonous psychology of those who've given up on themselves and now need everyone else to be weak too. You see it everywhere, once you know what to look for. The way people bond over their limitations, the way they attack anyone who dares to excel, the way they create philosophies that make mediocrity seem noble and ambition seem evil. They can't stand to see others succeed because it reminds them of their own abdicated power. If you're still with me, you're feeling something shifting. Maybe it's excitement, maybe it's fear, maybe it's both. Because once you see your own power, you can't pretend to be powerless anymore. Once you understand that you've been choosing your cage, staying becomes a conscious decision. This is the moment of truth. You can feel it. Something in you is waking up. Something that's been dormant for so long, you forgot it was there. It's your will to power stirring. It's your authentic self demanding to be born. And it's terrifying because it means everything changes. No more hiding behind other people's expectations. No more pretending you don't know what you want. No more using your past as an excuse for your future. Nietzsche understood that becoming strong isn't a gentle process. It's not about positive thinking or gradual improvement. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your place in the world. It's about moving from "I can't" to "I will." From "it's not possible" to "I'll make it possible." From "what will they think" to "this is who I am." The world will resist your transformation. Count on it. People who benefited from your weakness will suddenly become concerned about your well-being. They'll tell you you're changing, as if that's a bad thing. They'll remind you of who you used to be, hoping you'll crawl back into that familiar shape. They'll call your strength arrogance, your clarity coldness, your boundaries selfishness. This is the test. This is where most people break and go back to their comfortable weakness. But not you. Not anymore. Because you're beginning to understand what Nietzsche knew, that your life is a work of art, and you're the artist. That every day you're either creating or copying. That every choice is either an expression of your power or a denial of it. Here's what Nietzsche really wants you to understand. Your strength isn't something you need to find or build or earn. It's something you need to stop suppressing. Every day, in 1,000 small ways, you choose whether to honor your power or hide it, whether to speak your truth or swallow it, whether to create your path or follow someone else's. The brutal beauty of existence is that it demands you choose. Not choosing is still a choice to let life happen to you instead of through you. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't about becoming hard or cruel. It's about becoming real. It's about finally admitting that you'd rather fail as yourself than succeed as someone else's version of you. You stand at a threshold. Behind you is everything you've known. The comfort of fitting in, the safety of small dreams, the familiarity of your limitations. Ahead is uncertainty, but also possibility. The chance to discover what you're truly capable of when you stop apologizing for your strength. The world needs what you have to offer, not the watered-down version, not the acceptable version, the real version, the one that scares you because it's so powerful, the one that others might not understand because it's so uniquely yours. So here's the question that matters. How much longer will you pretend to be weak when you were born to be strong? Not strong in the way others define it. Strong in the way your soul defines it. Strong enough to be vulnerable. Strong enough to be different. Strong enough to fail and try again. Strong enough to become who you really are. The answer is already forming inside you. You can feel it. That's your will to power awakening. That's your life calling you forward. Will you answer?